All right, guys, today we're going to talk about persuasive essay and advertisement, two different types of nonfiction. So to start off, just some basic definitions. Persuasive essays are exactly what they sound like. They're narrative pieces. Remember, usually not necessarily telling a story, but they are, they're prose, right? They're not poetry. So they're usually just some kind of essay used to persuade readers to agree with or to see the point of view on a specific topic, right? And a lot of times with persuasive essays, you're going to give some kind of fact or statistic, something that's going to back up your argument and really push people towards your side of the argument. Whereas advertisements are also persuasive, but they are persuasive in a very different way. Instead of trying to get you to agree with a specific topic, they're going to try to get you to buy a product or believe an idea or vote for a particular candidate or something along those lines, right? With advertisements, it's still persuasive. It's just selling a different thing or trying to get you to do something different. So persuasive essay, to start us off here, a persuasive essay always has two major components. The first is a thesis. You guys know what a thesis is. We've talked about it before. I'm sure you've talked about it in other classes as well. So the thesis is really just the main idea that the author is trying to convince the reader to believe. It's usually a one-sentence statement of an opinion. Something that the author believes that they are trying to get you to believe as well. Just one sentence. Again, it's just a statement of what they believe. And usually it's stated as a fact, not saying, they don't say, I believe that this is true. They just say, this is true, because they're trying to be definite. Persuasive essays also have supporting evidence. Evidence is facts or statistics, verifiable data that is used by the author to provide a support for the overall thesis. It can be anything along those lines, but the more cold hard facts that they have, the better off they're going to be, and the more convincing their argument is going to be, right? You can say whatever you want, but if you can't back it up with facts, it's not going to be very convincing. So right here is an example of a thesis, and then a piece of evidence that's going to support that thesis. So a thesis here would be e-cigarettes and vapes must be heavily regulated by the government. Again, it is an opinion, but it is a statement. It is stated in a way that comes off as very confident, right? It's not saying I believe or I think that e-cigarettes and vapes must be heavily regulated by the government. They're saying straight up, e-cigarettes and vapes must be heavily regulated by the government. And then they're going to go in and give a piece of evidence that backs up that thesis. The evidence here being nicotine is an addictive substance and can be dangerous, but it is not nearly as dangerous as burning traditional tobacco and regular cigarettes. Therefore, e-cigarettes should be heavily regulated by the government, while traditional cigarettes should be banned. And again, this evidence is meant to support that thesis that e-cigarettes and vapes should be regulated, not necessarily banned, but regulated by the government. Right? So evidence is always going to support that thesis. If you can't draw a direct connection between the evidence you're providing and the thesis that you're stating, do not include the evidence, because it's not going to support your thesis. Now, advertisements, on the other hand, a little more entertaining and not necessarily always fact-based. They more appeal to emotions, to the logic of people, as opposed to the cold hard facts. Not saying they can't, but not all the time. So an advertisement is a written or visual piece of literature intended to introduce and sell a product or an idea. Again, can be a commercial for a product, can be getting you to try to vote for a particular political candidate, can get you to try to get you to believe a specific idea. All of those things apply when it comes to advertisements. Now, advertisements typically appeal to three categories, or try to appeal to one of three categories. There's logos, there's ethos, and there's pathos. You might have heard these before. These are Greek terms. So logos is appealing to the logical side of the audience, right? Logos, logic. So a lot of times with logos, you've got facts, statistics, you've got statements. You see any real big political ad, a lot of times they'll say, well, this candidate believes this, but this candidate believes this. That's logos, right? Trying to get you to believe what they're trying to sell you using a statistic or a fact. Ethos is when it can get a little dicey. It's hard to interpret, but ethos we typically associate with ethics, but it really comes down to authority, giving somebody who has authority or credibility on a topic. So if a message is coming from somebody who looks like they know what they're talking about, we're going to believe them, right? So a spokesperson that has credibility when speaking about a product is always important. Keep in mind, though, a lot of times spokespeople don't necessarily have to be who they say they are. Commercials for a medicine can come out and put a guy in a white a white coat and put a stethoscope around his neck and give him a clipboard, he looks like a doctor. He might not be a doctor, but he looks like a doctor, and we believe him because of the way he looks. So ethos has to do with authority or credibility. And then pathos is appealing to the audience emotions, right? We talk about sympathy, empathy. Those have to deal with feelings. Pathos, empathy, they both have the same root to them, right? So pathos is appealing to audiences' emotions. You see the SPCA commercials, the Arms of the Angel song playing in the background, the cute little puppies in the cages. That's pathos, right? Making you feel something and try to sell you an idea. Here's an example of a pathos advertisement. Not all pathos advertisements have to be sad. They can be funny. This one's trying to be funny. I don't know if it's necessarily that funny, but at the bottom it says the real milkshake, and it's got a picture of a cow on a trampoline. Obviously, a very humorous concept of how to make a milkshake. Again, not that funny, but that's the appeal. Another one here, this one kind of combines two. This is pathos and logos. So you see statistics, right? Hit at 40 miles per hour, there's a 70% chance I'll die. Hit at 30 miles per hour, there's an 80% chance I'll live. So this is an advertisement for the speed limit, for making the speed limit what it is. And you see it's got the statistics there, but it's also got a very emotional image. It's got one half of the picture is a kid, the other half is a skull. The idea of, you hit a kid going at 40 miles per hour, there's a pretty high chance you kill them. Whereas at 30 miles per hour, there's a pretty high chance that they survive. Now, if they had a picture of like Adolf Hitler, maybe not as emotional because everybody's going to run over Adolf Hitler with their car if they see him. But having a kid is what makes it the most emotional, right? And then here's another one. This one, when Peyton was still playing for the Colts, but so they have him with his pregame, his in-game, and his post-game. Obviously, this is ethos. This is appealing to the authority or the credibility of Peyton Manning. He's one of the best quarterbacks to ever live. And they have Gatorade, right? Saying that, if you drink this Gatorade, if you buy these products, you too can be as good as Peyton Manning. That might not be true, but that's the idea that they're trying to sell. All right, so we're going to have 2 assignments this week. Here's the directions for the first one. All of this is on the assignment sheet as well, and detailed on the actual the Google Doc of the assignment. So you're going to read the Pledge of Allegiance article that's in the week of 427 folder, and then you're going to look for the pro/con argument analysis assignment. That's also in the 427 folder. You're going to do 3 things. You're going to write down the thesis for each side of the argument. And again, the thesis is that main statement. If you need to go back and look at the notes earlier in this video or on the slideshow, please go ahead and do that. You're going to provide 2 pieces of information presented by each author that supports their thesis. So 2 pieces of information that they give you in their section of the essay that supports the overall thesis. And quickly about the thesis is stated right there at the top of the section. There's a pro, colon, and then gives the thesis. And then further down the article, there's con, colon, then gives the thesis. So the theses should be pretty easy to identify. And then at the very end, you're going to give a 1-paragraph response explaining which side you believe has a stronger argument. That's really up for debate. It's up to you to decide. But make sure you give examples of why you think these people have better arguments. And then the second assignment for the week, we're going to talk about advertisements as ethos, pathos, and logos. All I want you to do is to go to the advertisements, ethos, pathos, logos assignment in the week of 427. And I want you to go online and find 3 advertisement images that can have a different appeal, or they each have a different appeal. One for ethos, one for pathos, one for logos. Copy and paste each of those into the appropriate boxes on the doc, and then beneath each one, explain how each one portrays ethos, pathos, logos. So if we go back and take a look at these ones, right, this one was obviously pathos. This one was a combination of logos and pathos. This one was ethos. So please make sure that each picture you have falls under a different category of ethos, pathos, logos, and make sure that you explain how those ads appeal to those different categories. So if you have any questions, as always, please come to the Google Hangout and ask me, or you can drop me an email if it's outside of the windows. I hope everyone is doing well and staying safe, and hopefully, I'll see you guys soon.